All right, we're good to go. Welcome to the With CP podcast, the podcast where you get a glimpse into some aspect of CP. Just a little one though, because in order to get the real look, you got to join us on the ground. I'm Charles Douglas, I'm the executive director of Common Power.
And I'm Binh. I'm the Common Powers Fieldwork Senior Program Manager.
And we have a special guest with us today. As we're recording from Texas, we've got Paul from Run for Something. Paul.
Yeah, so my name is Paul Kim Bradfield. I go by he, his. I'm the Southern Regional Director at Run for Something.
That's awesome. And what is that? What is this? What is the southern part? Where is that?
So it's 11 states in the South, Virginia down to Florida, over to Texas, and kind of like everything that encompasses that triangle. Texans would argue that Texas is not part of the South. Texas is just Texas, but it is in the region.
The country of Texas. That's right. That's right.
It's
Okay. And how are we all feeling right now? Without explaining why, how are we feeling? Binh, you can go first.
I think I'm feeling pretty pumped. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. All right. Paul, how you feeling?
I'm feeling elated. I am uh partly relieved. A lot of anxiety in nights like this, and a lot of lead up to it. So there's all this like anticipation, and now it's kind of I don't know, my energy level is still high, and it's kind of want it to ride down, but I'm riding high right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm feeling proud of our work. All of us have been knocking doors together for about a week now. I'm proud of this organization that was able to send a small team down to Texas last minute. So let's dig into why we're feeling the way we're feeling, and that's because we're down in Texas for this runoff election on the Dem side. I'll let Paul talk about some of the specifics, but it was our opportunity to make a big difference, to make the CP difference in a small election, relatively small. Only a few thousand people voted in this election. It was a runoff on the Dem side between a progressive and somebody who was an incumbent who had voted against LGBTQ rights, trans rights in the state. And there's more to it than that. But the person we backed, Lauren Simmons, she missed winning outright by about 70 votes. And this is why we're here, because that is exactly the kind of election that we think that Common Power can do some real good in. So that's why we went. Now, how we went is something completely different, because that's just because we know Paul. Because we met Paul in 2022 in South Carolina, working on another small election there. And Paul saw us on the ground at work and realized that this election was a good fit and emailed us. So, Paul, instead of going with why you emailed us, start with, did I get all the facts right on the election?
Yeah. I think it I think you correctly framed the opportunity. There's a lot of opportunities in these kind of state and local elections for a small group of people to have an outsized impact, for sure.
And Ben, when you heard about this for the first time, we were in the office, and you had just come from a fieldwork meeting with the team, and I was like, Ben, we got an email. I think I got to go to Texas. Tell me, what was your first thought?
I was like, no way. No way. Because like this was like what? Like the just to let you know, this was where we are. What's today's date? The 28th, the 28th of May? Okay. So this would have been smacked right in the middle between our trip to Arizona in like 2 weeks, like literally last weekend, actually. I thought
Last
it was
weekend.
longer. It's literally last weekend. It would have been next weekend would have been New Jersey's election day that we were also thinking about joining.
Yeah.
And then like the weekend after that would be Nevada's primary. So if we added on this, it would have been like back to back to back trips. And also, so I was thinking logistically. My colleague Puya was thinking strategically. He was like, we have no business being in LD 146 in Houston, Texas, right? Like, it's like, what is that going to be? What difference would that make in the grander scheme of things? You know, like nationally, our focus is on the Senate, on the House, making sure that we hold down these critical seats. So why are we here in a runoff for a state leg seat that actually is not in a Dem state, is not in a Dem state. So there were many reasons why we shouldn't have been in Houston.
So why did we go? I want to say, and I'll let you talk about why it was right for us to come down here and the importance of this election. But I will say that a big part of my decision, aside from the match on the election, was our relationship with you, Paul, and our trust in you. And Common Power is an organization that runs on relationships and good work and good hard work and letting those things speak for themselves. And so if there's one thing that you've proven is that you actually have a great ability to find these diamonds in the rough. I think that you've proven to me that you know our organization and our work, and it was the right fit. And so I was like, I trust Paul. I trust Paul, and he gave me when he emailed me. It was a full. It was like a presentation in an email. It had links to all the. He made the case for it. He's like, here's our candidate. Here's the other one. Here's what they're doing. Here's what we're doing. Here's where I think we're gonna win. It was a pretty robust email. It was, it was days. It took me a few days to answer, but I was taking that around and sending it to people. And I was like, look what Paul's saying. Click the links and see why we should go. And so you kind of did a bunch of the work for me, man. But why is this election important?
Yeah, I think first I need to like zoom out a little bit. So Run for Something is an organization that supports young progressives
Yes.
to run for state and local office. We don't do anything federal. We don't do anything statewide. We're very local. And part of that motivation is building a bench of future leaders for this country. I think a majority of people, regardless of how they lean in party support, are kind of frustrated in kind of the options for the leadership of both parties being, I mean, frankly, pretty old. So the opportunity to support young folks. Our organization also has a priority in supporting women candidates, BIPOC candidates, LGBTQ candidates. You know, helping to kind of get the local leaders to look more like the country, right? The community.
And you're doing a great job, by the way. Doing a great job at that. It's a heavy lift. It's a heavy lift to do it for the entire country. So kudos to y'all for doing it so well for so long.
And not just like building a bench for the future, but getting leaders elected to local office. I think there's a lot of underappreciated power and opportunity in having an effective leader at the local office. I mean, we've had just in the southern region, we've had candidates who've won who've banned so-called conversion therapy in their municipality. We've had candidates who've won who've blocked harm reduction bills in one of the opioid capitals of the country, and it's a Democratic held city that person won and was able to kind of affect change. So there's a lot of opportunity at the local level. But also, like, if you look at the South, you know, like the state government level, we need to invest in folks, in those leaders, those exciting leaders who want to start, you know, building power and taking back control of their state governments from the you know, the conservative right wing, you know, swing that it's been going through these last, you know, few years. And I think you know, the candidate we supported is, you know, kind of a emblematic of that kind of opportunity,
Mhm.
in her state house seat.
So she was, and let's go through there a little bit about her. So she's under 40. She identifies as queer. She is a union organizer for years. Anything else there?
Um,
She wears Nike
She,
Dunks.
she's a Black woman.
Collection
she's a Black
art.
woman.
She's a Black woman.
That's
She's
good.
got a,
That's
I mean,
good.
she's got a great sense of style. She's been an
She
advocate
does.
for her community.
Yes.
There are no elected union reps, union members in the Texas State House. And it's a
Whoa.
member
How
of
many seats is that?
150 seats in
And
the
no, and no
House,
union.
and no union at present.
Wow.
And she's an education advocate. That's kind of how she first made a splash on the scene.
Mm,
There is a lot of, I guess, attacks on public education in the South, and including Texas.
that's
And
right.
there was a Greg Abbott installed, I believe, superintendent that was like deeply unpopular. And she kind of stood up at a meeting to kind of speak her truth and the importance of that defending public education.
Lauren did that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Lauren did that.
Okay. And who's the incumbent?
The incumbent is a state rep, Sean Terry. She was elected in 2016 or 2017. She's been there a while. And pretty much after she got elected, she's gone unchallenged. Um, and recently she's got a very troubling voting record. She backed Republican bills to ban books, to tack LGBTQ rights. She's had some hot mic moments, or I think even just like not even a hot mic moment in which she said a bunch of homophobic things, just kind of
Wow.
loud publicly. And she's tied to a lot of kind of dark money. Um, I mean, like, I think a couple weeks ago was the final filing report for your campaign contributions, and she held it secret. And it's kind of widely viewed because she got uh
From
Trump
Trump
aligned
donors.
donor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she got Trump donors. Yeah, that's what the story was about her. And now, so the remarkable thing on this is that, and this is why I didn't say this actually, Ben, when I was describing our candidate, Lauren, is that Sean is also a Black woman. And so that, that's not a standout element of her candidacy, actually. And that's actually what makes Sean remarkable is that she's a Democrat and a Black woman who is for banning books and against queer rights, and has these hot mic moments that are terrible. So that, this is she's unique in the country, and also entrenched, and it was seen as as impossible to beat, maybe, until Lawrence surprised everybody during the last election and came within how many votes, Paul?
I think it was around 100, but I was told while we were here it was closer to 70.
Yeah, her campaign manager told us that. Yeah, 70.
Texas has a, greater than 50% kind of threshold to avoid a runoff, and she fell, about 70 votes short of hitting that threshold. And she did that while her opponent was kind of taking for granted and thinking that it was going to be an easy reelection. And so she surprised a lot of folks that she even got that close to, and had more votes than the incumbent. So that was a shock. I will say, Run for Something's involvement in Lauren's kind of journey is a lot sooner.
Mm,
I had a predecessor, a Texas State director, that was kind of pretty directly involved in the recruitment process and the her decision to run. Michelle Butler, she's
mm,
a Dallas resident. She was a Texas State director at Run for Something, and she was there in early as an investor. thought partner in, supporting Lauren and the questions that, she had in running for office, because running for office for the first time is scary.
Yeah.
And so it was, and in the speech that we heard tonight from Lauren, she had a lot of kind of doubters early on, which is pretty common,
Yeah.
for folks that,
She talked about walking into some rooms and people were afraid to talk to her, right?
yeah, I mean, that's real, and that's unfortunately kind of a reality in some Dem safe, spaces, or Dem voting safe spaces in this country. A lot of nepotism, a lot of kind of institutional hold on to power, a lot of like, kingmakers or ring kissing in order
Yeah.
to, be considered, someone that can run for an office, let alone like challenge a well-funded, entrenched incumbent.
Right.
Rat.
So, okay, so you sent us the email and you're basically like, please send common power. This is the right fit. What made you send the email? Why did you send it to us, to me?
Well, I ran into y'all in South Carolina, and with another exciting candidate that we just kind of coincidentally were supporting, and then we both showed up to a canvas and we were both there, and we're like, hey,
Yeah.
it was a great experience. But I saw if y'all were, making the decision to show up for that candidate, where I mean, very few national or regional or even state organizations are literally showing up in person to back a candidate. I think it spoke volumes to the values of your organization, but then also it's such a big need across the country, across campaigns, across candidates, is getting folks to show up, to knock on doors, to um, show up in person to support candidates. And the fact that y'all gathered in rural South Carolina to back a candidate that absolutely deserved our support, but that a lot of organizations weren't, paying attention to, and a lot of candidates like him, don't have a lot of attention being given to. And so I knew that the potential impact y'all were you could possibly have in Lauren's race, and Lauren being a surprise almost win the first go around, and knew that, the war chest and the vitriol and the lies of the incumbents, tactics, and her allies, we could potentially make it a much more challenging election in the runoff, and that, you know, y'all were the opportunity to kind of bring in that extra punch,
Yeah.
to, potentially help Lauren close that margin that could have been close.
Yeah. And we did. We closed it. So I'm gonna go to you, Paul, for the final results here in a second. But Ben, we land here at the small team, and what's it like knocking on doors in Houston, Texas?
It's interesting because it's not so much about the place itself. You know, every state we go to has a different flavor of voter. But I would say that like it's the kind of election that decides what kind of conversations we're gonna have. One thing that stuck out to me was that like this is a Democratic primary, right? And we've done some primary work in like the last few months here. And one thing that our volunteers say that like is really helpful is to know why we're backing someone and not why we're against someone, because they're both Dems. You can't just use the argument that like, hey, go vote Dem. They're both Dems. So like you really got to know why you're for someone. And so being on these turfs, talking to these voters, they were really like challenging it. They were like, well, you know, like we would go to houses where there was a theory yard sign next to a Lauren, like a Lauren Ashley Simmons sign, right? Like they're neighbors. Like this is like a split neighborhood.
Yeah.
They all vote Dem, but they vote for different candidates. So the conversations at doors are actually more about like it's persuasion almost in a GOTV state. So that was really interesting. Like we rarely have conversations where we're trying to get people to go one way or another days out from election day. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, that was interesting, and yet there were some people towards the end. Yeah, I remember who were kind of they were sure, and it
Mm.
showed in the results. It showed in the results. Do we have
It did.
updated numbers? Because we just part of the reason why we're we're looking so dapper, even though we've been knocking on doors for days, is that we just came from her victory party, which was amazing to see her in her community. Those are some of the funnest things. You get to really see a candidate with all the people they love and all the people who've been there since the beginning. It feels it makes me feel lucky to be doing this work and to be around people who mean so much to each other, and that we get just to touch that for just a second feels like a real gift. But how did the race end up, Paul?
Yeah, actually, before I get to that, I actually
Yeah.
want to swing back to what Ben brought up about kind of split neighborhoods and split
Mm,
stores. I encountered a split household. One of the last doors I knocked was a 77, 78-year-old gentleman. He's a union member. Still working. Talked about bowling and fishing and history and direction of this country and how he was trying to convince the rest of his family to support Lauren because he voted for her in March in the first go. Largely on the strength of her being a union member and the things that he heard her say. And the rest of his family were, the support of the opponent, and that was a pretty interesting encounter of this,
and this
like,
he was talking about his kids. He was the older guy was for the progressive candidate, and his kids were for the conservative one.
his daughter and his grandson were for
His grandson.
and his grandson.
Wow.
And that apparently it's a highly politically engaged family. He said they get into a lot of debates, he called them, on like candidate support. And it is interesting. The thing is that they're completely aligned on supporting Democrats.
Mhm.
They're afraid of, the threat of Trumpism and what it could bring. But here in this specific race, they were split.
Wow,
Um,
and that's amazing, and it's a black family too. That's so interesting. Okay, so how did the race turn out?
So we are actually still waiting for full results from Harris County, but
Uh,
as of, I don't know, it's like 11, almost 11 p.m. local. We have Lauren up by 20 points, over the incumbent, which
which
is
is only how many votes though?
total votes. It is just over 4,000 votes.
My
Uh,
goodness.
And
Okay,
it is 20 points, but the margin of difference is less than 900 votes.
less than 900 votes.
I think around the amount of doors that we knocked.
I was gonna say, how many doors do we knock? Ben, you got that number?
I do. 809. 809 doors. I'm not counting the last turf that we did because I don't know if you actually went back and swung by and grabbed those doors on the way to the election day party, Paul. Did you?
No, I
That's
woke up
what I
early then.
thought. I was like,
I had work I had to do. But I woke up early and did those doors, did
Oh,
yeah,
those.
that's right.
that's
We got
right.
to count those. We got to count those in there.
Oh
Those are
yeah,
100.
okay.
We did 103 this morning.
Oh shit. Okay, that's 900 and then that would take us to 939.
Okay, I like that.
Okay.
So it was worth it to call us, to email us, Paul. That's good. So what, I mean, what does this victory mean for Texas? What is the impact of it? So, and I don't know, we didn't say this earlier, but she's going to represent Harris County, which is largest county in Texas. Yeah, almost, it almost entirely black and Latinx, and um, there's some API populations here. What does this mean for Harris County?
Well, I think there we're not opposed to bipartisan measures and bipartisan efforts. I think
Okay.
most Americans are kind of aligned on that. But I mean, it is also what are those bipartisan bills and bipartisan efforts that you're signing on to. And I think in 2024, what it means to be a Democrat or a progressive is kind of a baseline set of values. Are you pro-education? Are you inclusive? Do you have an equity lens? Do you support marginalized communities, including individuals that are trans, individuals that identify as queer? There is I feel like there shouldn't be any, that argument's kind of settled as a Democrat, as a progressive, on standing up on those kind of values. And so the incumbent, we didn't see her kind of defending and championing those values, and chose to align herself with Republicans as kind of the lone Democrat without, like, they didn't need her vote for it to pass.
Right. Doesn't make any
It's like
sense.
it's
So,
like
so do you think that Lauren is going to be more of she's kind of an example then? Is it what she symbolizes for the future of politics in Texas on the left?
I think it symbolizes I don't know, what young progressives should stand up for and champion in their communities and their state. We had a great example of a candidate we backed in Florida 2 years ago, who successfully primarily challenged in a similar situation, Miami-Dade County majority district, primarily Black district, unseated a 30-year veteran of the state house, a Democrat who voted to the don't say gay bill. Like, he didn't
Yeah.
even put his name onto that. So it's important that Democrats are kind of aligned on these kind of baseline values, but it also, like, there is power and opportunity within the office itself in the Texas State House. They provide constituency services. They have each state rep has that I know of has that paid full-time staff member.
Mhm.
And if your office is not going to be supportive, inclusive of public education and um, individuals that were trans or LGBTQ, how are you going to go to your state rep, your representative, for any services or needs or information that um kind of
Right. Basic duties, basic duties.
basic
What do you,
duty?
so yeah, what do you think? So, I mean, so she's gonna be a good example. She's going to serve her constituents in a way that her predecessor didn't. Um, what do you think is a bet way off in the future? What do you think is Lauren's future? How far does she go? People are, somebody said, is she going to become a part of the squad? That's a federal group. But I mean, you think that's in the cards for her? Is she that good?
It's hard to know. One of the exciting parts of my job is getting on the kind of ground level of all these kind of exciting future leaders. Backing them early, getting them into office. It's hard to know where a future leader can end up. I think we're talking the other night over dinner of Obama's first office was a state senate, and then that had a unique circumstance when he got elected to that. I mean, it would be wonderful if Lauren becomes elected president of the United States, but she's definitely got a bright future ahead of her. The Texas is trending, the direction of closing the margin every
Yes,
few
it is.
years.
Yeah.
Um, they're not that far away from flipping the state house. And so she could be a leader within the state house. She's going to be a leader within her community. A lot of folks say the pathway to flipping the statewide offices is through Harris County. There's a
Mhm.
lot of untapped votes in the county. Getting those people registered, getting them activated to participate through a champion that they align themselves with. There's so much that she can do for a community and for Texas, and she's got a great bright future ahead of her. We'll
That's
see.
right. We're gonna keep backing her. Lauren, this one's coming home. It's going on the wall. It's going on the wall on the CP wall in the office. Lauren, we're proud of you. Way to go. Paul, what's next for you? What's next for you, man? Where are you going?
Uh,
Regional director, lead person of the whole set.
so we have, I think, 30 endorsees in the state. I have to look at which are still current active candidates. Gonna
Okay.
meet some of those in Austin, Dallas, and San Antonio.
Okay.
We also got exciting candidates who stepped up to challenge their, right-wing governments across the South. Tennessee, Arkansas,
Mm,
are like traditionally off of, Democrats' radar, and we've got a lot of young folks stepping up to run there in winnable seats. And so it's going to be a very busy year. I know a lot of people are looking at kind of the national situation, and some folks are feeling anxiety on that, but like there's so much opportunity at a local level to um have impact and changing local communities and their leadership and be building to a different future. And
yeah.
so a lot of my work is in the southern region is going to be towards that these next few months.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, local elections are how we keep people engaged, is how you get people fired up who are negative on national stuff.
mhm.
It's also a reality that even though we are laser focused on fall of 2024, we have to simultaneously build for the future. We've got to do both. And that's a big part of what you're doing. We appreciate your work, man.
Yeah,
Thank you for what you do. Thank you for reaching out to us and inviting us out.
I appreciate y'all's work. It's you showing up for folks in kind of razor thin margins can tip the scales and get folks elected who are going to be leaders of their community now, and then future leaders onto the bigger, higher profile offices too. And that can be a result of literally showing up and knocking on a packet of doors can make all the difference.
Love it. Yep. Okay, so how do people join us on the next trip, Ben? This is a special one. CSO, as you coined the term, stands for what?
Vertical selective operations.
Critical selective operations. Uh,
Okay.
but this one was a Charles special operation, right? Because
Yes, it's
like
the OG, it's the
I
original
went rogue
CSO.
and then
Yeah.
handpicked my people for this. But how do people who are they hear this and they're like, yes, I want to go to Texas. I want to help. I want to go with CP to Texas next time. How do they do that now?
Okay, so you have to go to our website, and people might not, they might be turned off just by step one, but you have to do commonpower.org. All right, you have to type in commonpower.org, and then you have to, in the menu or the banner of that, just click volunteer now. You can volunteer now, you can volunteer with us. There's a lot of ways to get to this main page, but volunteer now, okay? And then volunteering now will take you to a map. This is a current map of all the states
You
that we're
scroll
working
down,
with.
right? You scroll down a little
Yeah,
bit.
so you have to scroll down. That's right. Step
Okay.
4, scroll down. All right. And then our beautiful map will show you what states we're active in. Texas being one of them. And if you click on that state, it will take you to a waiting list. So just sign up, and that's all you have to do to get further information, updates, logistical communications. When we activate these state teams in August, you will be the first to know. So
Okay.
that's
All
it.
right.
Join Team Texas.
It's that simple. Let me just say, because we are dependent upon the candidates and the community orgs in these states, we won't have dates yet. So that's why it's a waiting list. It's a waiting list for dates. So definitely sign up for that. I'm fired up to come back to Texas. I think we were just in McAllen in March, right?
Yeah, we
Uh,
were down there for the primaries.
yeah, shout out to Greg also, who is joining us for all of these great elections in his home state, and he flew out here to help us out. Shout out to Greg. Okay. I think we're gonna jump to one thing. We're gonna jump to one thing, Ben, to end us for tonight. This is a new segment that you put together.
Not
Uh,
new. It's only been episode 2.
it's
So
brand new segment. that you put together?
Okay, so
What's the
something
one
fun.
thing?
Yeah, something fun to end our podcast here. So the one thing question, and Paul, you have to answer too. So if you had to pick one weather where you would absolutely not canvas in, what would it be? And I can start us off.
Wait, can I
So
tell you, can I just say one that it's not? It is not the thunderstorm that just came through Houston because we were out there knocking on doors in the middle of thunderstorm with everything blowing around and people telling us to be safe and asking us why we're out there and lights turning off and flooding and everything, and we're still knocking on doors. So it's not a thunderstorm slash almost tornado in
wait,
Houston.
okay, let's just say this, okay? We have knocked on in all weathers, short of a natural disaster, we have knocked on weathers. So this is not about a what weather that we have not knocked doors in, is
Okay,
what you
all right,
would choose not to,
okay,
right? Because we if the mailman can deliver mail in that weather, we can knock on doors. So
okay.
all right, anyway, my pick would be heat waves. I hate heat waves. We did it in Georgia in 2022 over the summer, and heat waves in Atlanta is like it's like hell. It's like hell. It's like being baked. It's like
Really?
being no, because the thing is that like your skin feels great because of the humidity, but at what cost? You feel like you're being steamed from the inside out as you're like knocking on these doors. And because like heat waves aren't the same as like other kinds of heat, you don't get wind. Like you don't get wind. And also and you're walking on asphalt and concrete, so you can see these waves just rising up from the ground. And that freaks you out as you're walking outside for like hours on end. So I don't like canvassing in heat
Okay.
waves.
All right. All right. That's very descriptive. Thank you for that. Paul, what's your least favorite weather to knock on doors in?
I mean, so I've only run campaigns in the South, and my least favorite weather is essentially the weather I have to knock in, and it is just hot all the time. And drenching in sweat and changing shirts multiple times. I envy folks that get to canvas in the snow. I mean, I want to canvas in the snow sometime. I've never done it. But yeah, and yeah, the it is my reality. I have to kind of sweat whenever I canvas in the heat. Talking about heat waves, we almost 100 degrees while we were here
That's
knocking
right.
on door. We had a heat
Every day,
advisory.
above 90 every day. And
I think it was the hottest
yesterday,
Memorial Day on record or something in Houston or something like
yeah,
that.
Really? Oh my gosh. That's why the
and
air
yesterday,
quality was so bad.
yes, it was 150 AQI. Okay,
Oh,
it literally just said go indoors. It said stop canvassing right now. Go inside. That's what it said. What are you doing? My phone is like, what are you doing? You're walking. I can tell
your
you're
phone
outside walking.
refused to work. It got so hot it wouldn't
It
load.
did stop. It said it got too hot, and that's
And
funny. So what's mine? Mine is the snow. Okay, it's the freaking snow. I don't want to
well,
knock. You know why? Because even though the sun is uncomfortable, you don't get you like when you're in the snow, you can't physically hold on to the freaking lit that you're trying. Your fingers don't even tap the screen because your fingers are frozen and it doesn't even register that it's a warm finger touching the phone screen. Okay. You can't even use minivan when your fingers are frozen. Look, shout out to Team Wisconsin who knows this when they do their annual March door knocking every single March. That is it's not awesome. It's not awesome. I did in Iowa too in 2020. I did in Iowa in 2020 um for Liz Warren. Shout out to Liz, the homie Liz Warren.
I mean,
Go ahead.
I
You got a rebuttal?
I
What do you
mean, I
got?
may regret saying this, but that sounds so. I want my hands to be too numb to use the phone screen.
Same, same. See,
I mean,
Paul, so listen. Yes.
there are so many reasons we need to address and tackle and have an answer for climate change, but one of
Yeah,
them is it's making canvassing even harder in the South.
that's
It's
true.
already hot. and it's just getting
That's
warmer.
true.
It's
That's
And
true.
true. Which, you
and
know, which in the meantime, we have to just get better at canvassing the heat. We have to stop complaining. So I'm gonna need you to. No, I'm joking.
I dream of a time where,
This is
you
a
know,
question that's geared at complaining, but I just wanted one last rebuttal before we end this thing, okay?
Oh, you have
It's just
another rebuttal?
yes, okay. Because like in the code, and I'm talking to volunteers here. In the code, you can get warm. You can have like heat hot packs, you know, you can have stuff them in your gloves, stuff them in your boots. You can have boots, you have hats, you have scarves, all kinds of things. You can get warm. But in the hot, you can't get AC portable. Like you can't get cool in the hot. You have to suffer.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I will not rebuttal your rebuttal. We'll just say we'll leave it in the arms of the volunteers. What do you all think? Send us a message. Let us know what you think. Thank you for joining us today, Paul. It's been a pleasure to knock on doors with you, to share meals with you, to talk to you about your organization and ours, talk about this fall and what we think is going to happen and what's going to happen after that. Thank you for spending so much time with us and for believing in us, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for this partnership. It's a joy to work together, to knock on doors together, and do play our part in trying to kind of fix what's broken.
Do it. All right. Have a safe trip home, everybody.
Yeah. Travel safe. Okay. Do we need to
Yes,
do our
sir.
outro?
What's our outro?
I think it's like, hold on,
Stop the recording.
let me read the script for both you and me. Okay, so
Stop the
thanks for tuning
recording.
in.
Stop.
Find us on what?
We're supposed to. Oh, it's right.
Yes, okay,
The
here we go.
marketing team is gonna kill us. Find us on social media, all the socials at our Common Power. Go to commonpower.org, our website. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns or complaints, email hello@commonpower.org. No, if they're complaints, email Wole at. No, I'm joking.
No,
Um,
no, don't. It's like you better not. Anyway, okay, next week we'll be talking about our CP Future Crew Leads and the annual Crew Lead Retreat for Action Academy hosted in Seattle. So look forward to that.
all right. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah.